Happy Saturday, foodie friends and grain-free VIPs. Welcome to today's Slice of the Grain-Free Lifestyle episode. My name is Nina Blake. I'm the Grain-Free Lifestyle Coach, and I help families avoid grains and allergens while packing their menu with flavor and variety so that they can enjoy meals together and live their best lives. And let me tell you, if you think that sounds too good to be true, I'm so glad that you landed here with me today. As you are coming on and being notified that I'm live, could you please say hello or drop an emoji in the comments? And if you're catching the replay, could you please like, share, and subscribe? It helps others find their way to grain-free, allergy-friendly recipes so that they can share delicious meals with their family again, because that's why we're here, right? We want to eat safely and we don't want to miss out anymore. So today's topic is, how can I get out of survival mode, right? So that I can enjoy a grain-free, allergy-friendly lifestyle. Now, please, 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 I have been grain-free since 2012. This took me 5 years to accomplish. Let me say that again. It took me 5 years to get out of survival mode. And if you're like, Nina, what? Please tell me it's not going to take me that long. I don't want it to take you 5 years. As a matter of fact, I think you can get out of survival mode in like 12 weeks. But before I talk about you, I want to let you know what an absolute hot mess I was way back when. And this is one of those moments where I'm a little awkward because it's awkward to talk about what a hot mess you were 12 years ago as you were first learning. So I'm going to cook. All right, together we're going to cook. We're going to make some barbecue sauce. And the reason we're making this grain-free, allergy-friendly barbecue sauce, I've got tomato paste, organic red wine vinegar here. I've got coconut sugar, some seasonings. The reason we're making this is because it wasn't until I got recipes like my barbecue sauce, like my cheese sauce, like my ranch seasoning, like ketchup, where I really kind of took that deep breath and was able to live like normal again. Because 5 years ago, okay, I had to write it all down because I was like, when did I develop, when did I get cheese really back on my menu again? All right, so for 5 years, I don't know how I survived. For 5 years, I was making 2 meals. Every time I made a meal, I was making 2. One grain-free and one that was traditional. Insane, but that was what I did because I did not have grain-free recipes that everybody could enjoy. I had good enough grain-free recipes, and looking back, those good enough grain-free recipes, they weren't good enough, but they were the best I could do at the time. Okay, I was cooking every day in survival mode. I never took a day off. Maybe like twice a month I took a day off, but I was always cooking. I was always making something. And I was always hungry. Does that sound like you? If you feel like you're in survival mode, I would love to know what you feel like your survival mode looks like. So could you just tell me one thing that you feel has you in survival mode, and leave that in the comments because I want to be sure to respond to those. Okay, so I was making 2 meals. I was cooking daily. All right. But I was still constantly missing out. And I don't mean that like I didn't have balanced meals. I had some starches. I had proteins, I had vegetables, but I didn't have the good stuff. When it was time to go out to dinner, I had 2 options. One, salmon and salad, or I cheated because that's what my doctors told me to do. Just cheat. You can have a little exposure every now and then. Your body will be able to handle it. That got me hives on my birthday when I tried birthday cake. That is not success. That is part of my 5 years of trying to figure it out. It was insane. Yes, I had a flour blend that I was using and was using up until January to make cakes, to make breads, cookies, pies. Cakes came later. But it was insane. It was absolutely insane. And when I say I was missing out, remember I told you that those grain-free treats I was making, they were kind of in that good enough zone. Like one 4th of July, the first 4th of July cake I made, I took one bite and I didn't even want to eat the cake. Why? Because the cake tasted like almonds and I wanted cake. If I had wanted almonds, I would have had almonds. But let's not go there. Because what matters more? The 5 years of survival mode or the 7 years of success since then? Because my success looks like cheeseburgers and casseroles and cookies and cakes and breads and rolls and pies, right? That's what we want to get to. But again, I don't want to be that preachy person, so I will give you an overview of what we're going to get to. We're going to get to 3 things that you can do today. 3 things that you can do today so that you will be able to get out of survival mode. And I'm going to give you more on those. But first, you're going to simplify things, okay? Second, you're going to find a trusted resource. And third, you're going to find joy in flavor. And if you're like, how do I do that? I promise you, we're going to get there. But we need to continue to talk about what an absolute hot mess I was because the barbecue sauce has to simmer anyway, okay? Barbecue sauce, all right, hasn't even come to a simmer yet. So right now, it's just tomato paste, it's water, organic red wine vinegar, some coconut sugar, some seasonings. It's top 9 free, it's grain free, I can enjoy it safely, and it's one of the foods that really goes back to one of the 3 principles that we're going to talk about later, which is to find joy in flavor, okay? So, I had no clue what hidden grains were. No clue. I knew that I couldn't eat rice. I knew that I couldn't eat oats. I knew that I couldn't eat wheats. When I tried corn pasta and ended up on the couch clutching my knees in the fetal position, rocking back and forth, going, corn is a grain. I will never eat corn again. I learned corn was a grain, but I didn't know that corn was included in so many foods, like the cured meats. And so I was eating them, and I constantly had a stomachache. Not as bad as before, but still, like, I wasn't making the progress I wanted. I would have times where, as my dear friend would say, Nina, one day you'd be fine. The next day you'd walk into work with a balloon face. Because eating hidden grains would do that to me. Boop, balloon face. From one day to the next, and I couldn't figure it out. And it was so frustrating. All I was doing was surviving. If that is part of your survival mode, you are not alone, and doctors think it's fine to be there. Many of them are like, hidden grains, it's okay. But it really gets to us. It really gets to my body. It made the difference in my success. Now, I wish I could tell you it was just about hidden grains. It wasn't, okay? I was focusing on the product. When I was cooking and I was trying to make a bread, I was focusing on whether or not I got a loaf instead of the process, instead of learning along the way. What do you mean learning along the way? I mean that the outcome of that recipe was either success or suck, right? According to me back then. Well, guess what? There are a whole lot of loaves that didn't work out where I learned something, okay? I learned something about the ingredients. I learned something about the cooking time. I learned something about developing xanthan gum, and that's where the techniques I use came from. All the failures, or at least many of the failures in those first 5 years where I was in survival mode. Now, I don't want you to spend 5 years in survival mode. If you feel like you're in survival mode and you need to get out immediately, please use the link below. We'll hop on a call and talk about how I can support you. We'll meet on Zoom. It's a no-cost consult, and I'll give you some tips and see how I can support you. Now, I was doom scrolling before doom scrolling was a thing. I doom scrolled Pinterest looking for recipes hours and hours. I would lose hours every week looking for recipes. And then even worse than doom scrolling was the time I spent buying ingredients for one recipe. So I would go to make a loaf of bread from this website, and I would substitute this and I would substitute that, and I had like 5 different bread recipes that I tried and 17 different flours in my kitchen. And do you know what I got? It was never bread. I had to simplify things. So I was doom scrolling like mad. I was using every ingredient under the sun. I was wasting money. Like, And Alicia, I see you're on with me right now. Alicia can attest to that. Alicia and I, we were friends at church before I moved, and Alicia can empathize. Like, you know how hard I worked and how much I was just spinning my wheels. And Alicia would listen to me at church, and she'd try foods, and every once in a while I'd get one right, but there was a lot of time in between, between getting things right. It was accidental, and sometimes I couldn't even replicate it. Like, that was my survival mode, but that's not all it was. You've heard me say FAMO before, food allergies always missing out, right? That was my first 5 years. Whether I was at home, whether I was at somebody else's house, I was watching people eat all the time. And I didn't know how else to change it. Because when I followed doctor's advice and had those small exposures, I got hives, I got puffy joints, I got the stomach ache that lasted for weeks. It was awful. It was. And the doctor sent me to a nutritionist, and the nutritionist sent me back online to doom scroll for recipes. And let me tell you, I paid them a lot of money to tell me to doom scroll for recipes and just keep looking, you'll find it. Yeah, no. If you're wondering what kind of allergies do I have where I couldn't find recipes online, here's my whole list. Apples, almonds, bananas, beef, blueberries, cassava, corn, dairy, eggs, all grains, peas, pork, potatoes, soy, pineapple, orange, sunflower, sweet potato, benzoic acid, and my husband is lectin-free. Now, kind of flashing forward to now, I eat great without those foods, and that's why I started our group. That's why I started teaching cooking classes. That's why I started my YouTube channel, because I want you to get out of survival mode as fast as possible and start thriving, okay? I'm gonna tell you one more thing. I told you about how there was either a good or a bad, right? And most of the stuff that I was eating was in the bad, whether it was cheating because it was my birthday and I wanted pizza and cake, or it was a loaf of bread that didn't turn out, and I was just constantly like swimming in that negativity zone. Right? I was a victim of FAMO, food allergies, always missing out. So when people talk about grief and sadness, deep sadness associated with food allergies, yeah, that was me. There's a reason that food allergies are described and protected by the Americans with Disabilities Act, because it truly is a disability that prevents us from accessing all that life has to offer. Now, if you're like, okay, Nina, how do I get out of survival mode? Okay, please don't think that I got out of survival mode because one day something came down from the sky and I figured it out. No, instead I got hit upside the head. I was a foster parent at the time, and I happened to have a small child with food allergies. Didn't know she had food allergies when she came to us, but the more she ate like me, the more her physical ailments improved. And working with her doctor, we determined through an elimination diet that there were foods like dairy and corn and even wheat that she shouldn't have. We knew she had a chocolate allergy when she came to us. So it was time for her brother's birthday party, and this sweet little child who had been doing such a great job, she'd been doing such a great job avoiding the corn, avoiding the dairy, avoiding the chocolate, avoiding the wheat, and she had a lot of support. Not that she didn't make mistakes, because kids want to eat. It was my job to find a way for her to have cake at her brother's birthday party. And that's when it hit me. Everybody deserves pizza and cake, right? Nobody should miss out. I had been trying to convince myself for the first 5 years that it was okay if I missed out. No, it's not okay for me to miss out. It's not okay for children to miss out. It's not okay for you to miss out. And before I share these 3 tips with you to help you not miss out, I want to tell you that I actually do less cooking now than I used to back 5 years ago. So let me show you the barbecue, and then we'll talk about the 3 things we can do, because I could talk about this all day, and I will if you let me. But I know your weekends are precious. They are valuable. Look at the barbecue. It's starting to simmer. Almost even looks like barbecue. It smells wonderful. Okay, so let's talk about 3 things that you can do today and the recipes that I'm going to give you to help you with that. 1, you're going to simplify things, okay? 2, you're going to find a trusted resource. And 3, you're going to find joy and flavor. No surprise, I'm going to talk for a long time about these because I wish you could come to my house and do it with me. I wish you could come and make barbecue with me. I wish you could come for dinner tonight and make crispy chicken meatballs with me. Grain-free VIPs, that recipe is coming this weekend. I can't wait to share it with you. So good. All right. So what do I mean when I say simplify things? Well, first, how do I simplify things at my house? At my house, I use one flour blend, and you probably already got the recipe. If you don't have it, please put flour in the comments and I will get you my OG grain-free flour blend. It's made with chickpea, tapioca, and coconut, and I was using it for 12 years until my husband developed lectin intolerance. And then I had to simplify things again and come up with a lectin-free flour blend, which I'm now able to use in my rolls. Hope to get those to the VIP recipe box soon. Got some more testing to do, right? And use them in the cookie bars. Speaking of cookie bars, I had some hanging out. So let's stop for a quick break and have a snack because I get excited about this. You might have noticed. It's so exciting to me that we don't have to choose between eating safely and a life of deprivation. We can have both, and that's what you're gonna do. I'm gonna help you do it. Okay, one sip. Just like with my flour blend, you're gonna find your trusted ingredients. Maybe it's my flour blend that works for you. Maybe it's something different. My VIPs, some of them have developed their own grain-free flour blends that they use because one person's allergen is another person's safe food and vice versa. We can either be limited by that reality or we can grow despite that reality. And you're here because you want to grow and enjoy all the flavors of life despite that reality. And so I'm here to help you do that. So you're going to use your trusted ingredients. You're going to slim them down to ones that you know work safely and predictably, right? Instead of doom scrolling, you're going to invest your time in learning techniques. That might mean that you make the same bread recipe 4 weeks in a row. But like I do with my VIPs, we're going to use one technique that first week. Then we're going to evaluate the results. We're going to look at what does it look like? What does it taste like? What do we need to change to get it to be your perfect bread? Okay? And we're going to move purposefully through that process so that you're simplifying things while you're increasing your knowledge so that it's not a guessing game anymore. Okay? You're going to find a trusted resource that works with your dietary needs, that works with your lifestyle. Okay? So if you need 30-minute recipes and the cookbook that you want or the chef that you're following doesn't have 30-minute recipes, we'll find one who does for you, right? That just makes sense. You can still go back to your favorite blogger, your favorite chef another time, but you've got to work within what suits your lifestyle. Whether that trusted resource is a blog, a cookbook, a program, a mentor. Find that trusted resource who can support you. Last thing, you're going to want to find joy and flavor. One of the biggest mistakes that I made, and that almost everyone I've ever met makes, is they want things to be exactly the same. Okay, I would like that too. And I'll be the first to tell you that when I was diagnosed with my grain allergy, it felt like I had been transported to another planet, one where none of the rules applied, where gravity had been flipped, and it was like cooking on the moon because literally things didn't work the same way. Okay. But the ingredients that I was in love with, that were safe, they still tasted the same way. And what I mean is, people said, Nina, use spaghetti squash. Spaghetti squash, it'll taste like pasta. They might call it spaghetti squash, but that is not spaghetti. And anyone who thinks it is has never had spaghetti. But if I wanted something that would hold the flavor of a nice pasta dish, the spaghetti squash would work. My favorite sauce was always a traditional macaroni and meatballs, right? That wasn't doing it for me. I couldn't put my family's gravy and the meatballs on the spaghetti squash because it tasted wrong. But I focused on other flavors that I did enjoy, like butter. I had to make a dairy-free butter, garlic, olive oil, parsley, rosemary, make a nice sauce, right? And then those flavors, which I loved, I needed something to put them on. So while I didn't have the spaghetti that I was craving, I had the spaghetti squash. Okay. Now in those first 5 years, I did not have sauces like my barbecue or my cheese sauce or my ranch dressing or my ketchup. It was a life of deprivation. It was literally meat and protein when I went out. At home or at a relative's house, I could bring desserts, but either I reviewed my allergens with them ahead of time beforehand and they made something for everybody that was like chicken and garlic, or, maybe they made something fancy with the sauce and they just left the sauce off for me, and it was one sacrifice after another. So when I say focus and find joy in flavor, getting those flavors like barbecue back to your table, using safe ingredients, simple ingredients that you can use from one recipe to another, opens up huge doors. And again, I spend less time cooking now than I did 5 years ago because I don't cook every night. When I meal prep, I can make 5 dinners in 2 hours. And then I have the rest of my cooking time for the week to work on breads, to work on delicious desserts. And so I'm not spending any more time cooking than I used to, but my menu has exploded, and that is what I want for you. I want you to get out of survival mode. I want you to be able to eat safely, to enjoy a summer of barbecues with trifles, creamy chocolate cream pie, wonderful desserts that you can not just eat by yourself, but that when you bring them to a party, people say, "Oh, did you bring the brownies again? Those are the best brownies," because they will. Because, as my grandmother would say, there's no junk, right? That's the thing about grain-free, allergy-friendly. When we get the junk out of our food, we end up with something that's better quality. I believe that you can do this. My calendar link is in the comments, and I'm excited to see you on our call. I believe in you. The possibilities are endless when you break a recipe. Take care.